product in there?
Yeah.
It's all good.
All right, 7 o'clock time now for the city council work session followed by the Grand City Hall meeting here at City Hall. It's the podium and Mayor Taylor.
I call to order this Grand Haven City Council special work session. It is March 18th, 2019, and I'm reverbing. Linda, would you call the roll, please?
Vanessa?
Here.
Bruger?
Here.
Scott?
Here.
Fritz?
Here.
Michaela?
Yes, here. Our item on our work session agenda tonight is our depot and architect report. So Pat, did you want to introduce it all, or should I just call on Kirsten to make her report?
If I could, the city council took over the depot from the museum. The museum decided to move their transportation museum out early last year, and city council asked Kirsten Runschke. We did some visioning and some discussions, and we asked Kirsten Runschke, local architect with Architectura, I think I got that right, close, to look at the interior and exterior and the structural, mechanical, aesthetic quality of the building, and come up with some recommendations to give us a full renovation, preservation approach to the building, as we look to move into the future as it's part of this new stadium environment and try to make the most of what we've got there. So Kirsten's done that, and she's got a report to provide you with tonight.
All right, awesome. So Kirsten, give us your, I know you put a lot of hard work into this, so ready to hear.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everybody. And as Pat said, yes, the last, steps in this pre-design work that we were doing is to present kind of a budget to you and an overall kind of look at the facility and what it would take to maintain what you have there and just to improve upon the existing conditions. As we're dealing with an old structure, we all know. So we went from the inside and we took a look at the different parts of the building and came up with a facility assessment for you, and I believe you probably have that report in front of you. It was just kind of a bullet point list of items. Now, I'll try and hit on a couple of the highlights for you, if you don't mind. But as we looked at the facility and we looked at potential things that you might be looking to do with it, we look at the chimney that's in there. It's only on the attic space, so we look to remove that. And that will be reflected. All these items will be reflected in the budget that we ultimately have put together for you. So I will start with the attic space and work my way down the building. So attic, main level, and into the basement. In the attic, we saw that there's just some general repairs that might want to take place and cleanup. And when we talk about cleanup, I'm really kind of referring to when the addition was complete at the north end of the building. There was some of the bat insulation removed from that up in the roof area, so we suggest replacing and installing that again. That would also mean to put up some gypboard to secure that, and that's kind of what's depicted in that top photo there. Likewise, when we look at the facility, we want to make sure that we've kind of done our due diligence and addressed any environmental issues, so we suggest removing the vermiculite from the space in the attic area. We also suggest that as we look at the new layout, potential new layouts, this would require relocating existing ductwork so we have supply and returns where we need them as we look to the different spaces that are created from what's there now. Let's see.
We ask questions as we go.
Yes.
You said remove the chimney in the attic?
Yes.
Is that shown in the picture there? Is that?
Let me, I'll go to my pointer and know what I'm doing, I think. Back here,
That's the chimney.
that's the chimney that's there, and that's only up in the attic space. There's nothing, hard to tell, I guess, on the main floor if it's still running through. I know we have a brick wall down there that we're dealing with, but to say that much of the chimney is there is not true. But that's what we're referring to when we say remove the chimney.
So does that chimney protrude through the roof?
No.
It cuts off before the roof. Okay. So it's just a vestige. It was just left over and not removed at some past point.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just bricks in the shape of a chimney.
That's all it is.
Okay.
Next, we go to the main level, and we suggest that there, we've been talking about the new layout for the space, so we're looking at removing the partition walls in that area. Some of the other items that we call out in our report are floor infills, as you'll see, as well as the access to the lower basement needs to be addressed because that's not accessible at this point in time, nor is the spiral stair that's there. So we suggest removing those and installing one new set of stairs to access your lower level. We look to, like I said, remove the brick wall that's on the main floor because that's in the space that we're talking about as far as opening up and creating that flex area for you to use. Removing carpet in the space, removing the chair rail just to dress up everything in order to provide new insulation on the exterior walls. We know that we have pretty much a brick wall situation there, three-wife masonry kind of situation. We look to remove the existing toilet room in our plans that we've been looking at. Some of the renovation items that we address in our budget numbers are new lighting, emergency lighting that's required, electrical rework that would be necessary, insulating your exterior walls to meet energy codes of today, patching, like I said, patching and infilling the floors, redoing your existing wood floors, obviously painting walls, ceilings, and trim work, taking care of the sprinkler, adding a sprinkler system, if you will. So now that we can have the occupancy that you're looking for and creating the space that you would like as far as assembly use, and just to take care of the building safety-wise. Like I said, new stairs to access your lower level, new exterior doors, with hardware and insulated windows, better insulated windows. You have currently insulated windows in there, but we would suggest removing and replacing those two in kind, as we've talked with the Historic Commission. One of the other big things that we've noticed that we'll address in the lower level is that we highly recommend that we have a structural engineer review your floor joist if you really consider having this space used as an assembly area. Along the exterior walls, your east and west walls, you have in place right now 4x4 posts, roughly 10 to 15 feet on center. These were put in place with beam above it to help support your existing floor joists, which were eaten away by termites. So we have some issues there that we need to address. Again, sorry, this photo up here, what I'm trying to highlight really is the bottom condition of those 4x4 posts that was put into place. We do see some potential issues with those as well, rotting away, and just want to make sure those get addressed when we have a structural engineer review that for your overall facility. Other things we suggest is waterproofing your lower level and talking with people at Public Works, Dan Vivian, and so forth. We know we've got water coming into the basement, whether that was something that occurred because of the street work or if that's always been there, but we feel we've got a solution on how to address that. If we dig trenches from the inside, put sock drains in, we can mitigate that. So all those items, like I said, have been addressed and put into our budget number for you. Likewise, on the exterior of the building, we looked at what you have for the existing soffit and what you've done to the new addition, and we suggest removing the existing soffit because we know we've got lead paint in that soffit that's there now, so we can, again, mitigate those kind of environmental concerns, and then replace that. And at the same time, we suggest tying in the two portions of the building and putting in new can lights, LED can lights, to bring up the energy code. As well, we address things like decorative brackets and repainting and repairing those as necessary, so we maintain their historic integrity to the facility. I think that's kind of the highlight of the assessment report that we have done for you. I don't know if anybody's got any questions at this point.
I have a few. First of all, removing the toilet room, so as it's called, how does that affect? I know there's the new restrooms at the north end, but how does that affect as far as code anything that else that goes on in the interior of the building there? Is anybody else, if somebody else moves in there, do they have to provide other hand washing or toiletry spaces?
At this point, no, not with the occupancy counts that we've looked at, you know, with the assembly kind of space and with your tenant, whether it's mercantile or whether it's a business kind of entity. We have plenty of facilities in that end of the end of the building with the new toilet rooms that have been provided.
And then the termite damage, how extensive is that? And is that have anything to do with present occupancy of the building?
I don't believe that's tied to any present occupants, or there's, I don't know that there's any termites currently in this situation, but I would say that's pretty extensive, and you've tried, or maybe the museum tried to handle some of that at the time by putting in these 4x4 posts and the beams below. But like you said, with the increased occupancy that you're, I think, looking at potentially,
right,
we would highly recommend that we have a structural engineer review kind of that.
Okay, so we really need to hear from that person first before we make a determination on
Yes, I would say.
What we need to do.
To make sure the floor joist can support the weight of the potential occupants. So.
Okay, all right. Seems like there was one other thing which is slipping my mind.
Well, just building on what you asked, the idea of having a structural engineer, and can you help us get, would that be like, which firm? Is there a local firm that does that sort of work, or can you help us identify some likely candidates so we can get that work done? Because that's probably something that will be done regardless.
Yes, we have a variety of people around here that can potentially help with this, from people to the north, Soils and Structure, to people in Grand Rapids, Hoffman and Consultants. They've all looked at these kind of facilities and probably can weigh in on this.
Okay, so I think I'll proceed with getting that done, just so we've got that answer next, at a minimum. Okay.
And then the water issue, I know that there's different theories on where, what's causing that water issue, but I'm until you get that nailed down to what the problem really is. Some people said it was because of the brick that was put in, but as to what where the drainage is, I don't know how much Dan, if Dan knows anything, in regard to that. But I know that there's different theories about the water coming into the building.
Dan Vivian, Facilities Manager. As far as we can tell, the water started coming in the most during the construction project on Harbor Avenue. So we're not sure if somehow the digging in there maybe pushed the water table towards the building. But we weren't really having issues until that project took place. When we first took over the building for the stadium renovation, there was no water in the basement.
Okay, because I'd heard from the museum folks that they couldn't really store stuff down there when they were still occupying the building because there was water seeping in from somewhere.
Well, water would seep in from the outside stairwell where the Bilco doors were. On the stadium side. As far as their pump, a couple of their pumps weren't even functional when we took the building over, so they didn't need water removal for quite a while. They had one little sump pump in a pit, and that would run occasionally, but there wasn't any real evidence of excessive amounts of water like we've been getting down there.
Well, all right. Okay. Thanks.
That's a limestone foundation too, and it's pretty porous, so groundwater comes in pretty easily. Doesn't have to come around through openings and such. And when Denny Swart out and Steve Radke were there, they both told me that they noticed that after the streetscape project on Washington, water was literally funneled toward the building, and so it became a lot worse at that point. As far as storing artifacts in the basement, it was so humid down there, so moist all the time. They said it was a microclimate. It was like storing things in the jungle, basically. Things would just mold. They couldn't control that.
Right, the water we're getting is actually there's 4 well points that are already, just pound points in the basement. The water is actually coming up through those holes. We're not getting any through the walls. It's all through the slab.
So now but the joists on the walls there, are the joists still resting on the walls, or is the load more be taken by the extra structure inside? the 4x4 posts and beams.
Sorry, can you repeat
So
that?
you say the joists are rotted at the walls,
Yes.
presumably because they're wet all the time. And I don't know about per termite damage. Are the joists even resting on the walls anymore, or are they just kind of hovering above them? I mean, what's carrying that floor?
Yeah, for the most part, the bottom of the joists have been eaten away in a
So
majority
they're
of them.
really not load bearing on the walls now.
Correct, and that's why I believe at one point in time, from what we can tell, this other system was put in place just proud of the wall.
Yep. So now the demising walls inside, the existing perpendicular walls to the outside walls, those are not providing any stability to the masonry?
We have one interior, in the basement, we have one interior wall that's a bearing wall, that's taking up half of the floor joist.
Well, that runs parallel to the long walls, but I'm talking about the ones perpendicular to the main structure.
No,
You're satisfied they're not providing stability to those walls?
yes. I'll go back to the attic view here. In this lower left-hand photo, you can see the timber structure of the roof truss, if you will. Those are going out to your outside walls and coming down, so there's nothing interior. There's no interior points that...
I understand they're not carrying the roof other than the walls themselves. You don't want them to topple over if there's nothing holding them up, basically holding them back. That'd be the only function I could see for the interior walls. You got everything inside blown out except there's one new wall showing just to the, I guess it's to the south of one of the existing doors.
Correct.
So everything inside would be either new or gone.
For the most part, yes.
And then the stairway you have cuts across all the joists, but apparently they're not doing much anyway.
I think it would be safe to say at this point, yes, that we can make that modification to that.
Okay. As far as the exterior work, the new doors and windows would be within existing masonry arch or existing brickwork, basically.
Correct.
Okay.
Based on my last attendance here and the discussion, I believe it was just, let's just kind of move forward with maintaining the building and taking care of the building, so
And the
those
windows,
were the numbers. That
windows are likely to be double hung or similar to what's there now.
Right now you have double hung, but we would probably just go back with fixed windows and emulate the style with the mullions and stuff, but
Okay. Well, they don't need to be operable.
that was kind of the opinion.
Okay.
A couple more. You mentioned something about the treatment to the interior walls, removing the chair rail. Would you plan on taking the finish off so it's back to brick? Is that?
Yeah, probably went over that a little bit quick, but the reason why we were suggesting you remove your chair rail and your interior finishes was that we can provide insulation on the inside of the building. Right now, we know that it's just pretty much a brick wall there, based on some investigation and some discussions, again, with Public Works. We know that we just have masonry walls, no insulation within those walls, so we'd want to address that now when we have the opportunity.
So we would put some new members on the inside, insulate, and then have a wallboard of some kind?
Correct. We'd defer out the walls, insulate them, and then, go back with the style of the building itself and suggest putting on perhaps new chair rail. So.
Are your sprinkler mains going to be in the attic space? Are they going to be concealed or are they going to be out in the open?
The suggestion would be to do a nice concealed sprinkler in the attic space, or since we're looking at already suggesting removing the vermiculite that's up there, we then have access to take care of that and
All right.
that way, rather than having everything hung below, so we can have a nice clean space, and gives you opportunities for lighting. And
You have to sprinkler in the basement also?
I would suggest probably sprinkler in the basement.
The floor, redo existing wood floors, so would we just refinish and
Yep.
sand it down and reuse what's there then?
Other than the areas, obviously where the truck display was, where we have some patching to take care of, we just suggest maybe if the intent is to use this as an assembly area, highly recommend just keeping the existing wood floors that are there, since you have them in the majority of the space and they seem to be pretty good, just refinish them. So, and that's kind of the number that we have accounted for.
Then finally, when we were talking about the water in the basement, we could trench, and did you call them sock drains?
Yep.
Like a drain with a sock around it, is that?
Really? Sorry, I don't have a photo of it and how to.
So water can infiltrate, but solids can't.
Right, correct.
Thank you. Just wanted to learn a little bit here.
collecting socks
Yes.
as a donation.
The sock drive.
Yep, sock drive.
I'm not exactly sure how far you'd like me to go into the line items on the budget. I believe you probably all have those in front of you as well, or you want me to kind of...
I don't know if you want to highlight a few of them?
I got one more question about that area where the truck was parked, because the rest of the floors are old hardwood floors, except that area's patchwork of slabs. Is that, you have figured in anywhere of replacing that with old hardwood?
Yes. Yep, we have square foot numbers in there.
Okay.
In place for that, as well as for the toilet room area, also the floor, around the existing accesses to the lower level. Infilling those, taking care of those have all been accounted for in your budget number. I guess to highlight a few items on the overall budget. Sorry, I'm just trying to go through and see what might be the most. If we want to, I guess, look at demolition stuff, obviously we've accounted for dumpsters, we've accounted for the chimney removal, we've looked at the interior partitions, the doors, the chair rail, again, kind of all those items, the carpet, stairs, plumbing fixtures. Even cutting the floor in the basement to address the potential waterproofing down there. So all those items together, you're looking at roughly 40,000. I'm just going to round up through the kind of the items that you've got in front of you. Or excuse me, 50,000. Then we've got the kind of the concrete infill, the concrete pier work that we suggest for, again, to address the termite issues and address those posts that are down there currently. We've looked at the block wall, and the one thing we've suggested and probably didn't review quite yet was in the basement where the Bilco doors have been removed. We would recommend maybe backfilling that with sand or filling that with sand and just closing that space off so you have nobody potentially can get behind there, get lost behind there, stuck in there. No rodents, if you will. So that would be an infill cost, would be minimal. We've got metal fabrication of stairs. We kind of suggest going in with steel stairs with concrete treads, and you're looking at, $8,000, let's say.
Do you have waterproofing of the basement walls in this?
Yes, probably down in the thermal and moisture protection, or, excuse me.
Not seeing it.
I want to say it's covered in our sock drain and everything when we put in the pumps. So we've got that all covered in there, the waterproofing. When we said waterproofing, what we were really talking about is putting in this 6-inch sock drain, because to waterproof the sidewalls of that basement, we already have concrete sidewalks in place, so we're not going to remove those and put...
So instead of waterproofing, it's water removal.
Correct.
So,
Thank you.
okay. Just so we're clear about that,
Yeah.
You're not waterproofing the basement?
No, water removal, you're correct. We've got the new doors called out, we've got the aluminum clad wood windows called out with the style with the arch-topped windows and everything. We've got interior finishes from painting to redoing the wood floors, infilling the wood floors where necessary, where we have the patches that have been made now and the new patches that need to be made, but with hardwood floor going in with that for sure. We have the fire suppression system in there for you, along with a standpipe, required fire hose connections, Siamese connections. Rerunning some of the ductwork again to make sure we have our duct supplies and returns in the proper area with the new layout. We have electrical, where we've suggested that the furnaces that are in the attic space with the new layout be tied together, so we have a little bit of an electrical item in there for that. We have general lighting throughout the space with emergency lighting and LEDs. And exterior LEDs called out as well. And then for the exterior, again, removal and mitigation of those soffit panels that are there, those wood soffit panels, and replacement, again, with new wood soffit panels to match the addition that was recently completed. So overall, what we're looking at for a probable cost estimate prior to any soft costs, which are your contingency, your general requirements of plan review, your contractor overhead and profit, your architectural fees, your construction administration fees, and any other items, you're looking at $400,000.
Yeah, pretty much what we thought.
And the cutting the concrete was under demolition, $37,000 for the drain tile in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Kirsten? Comments? All right. Nope. Okay.
Nope.
Well, thanks very much for your evaluation. And so we'll be looking at our structural expert to give us more information. That'll be interesting to hear. All right.
Sorry,
Pardon?
not to carry on, but that was also a line item in there that we had kind of a structural review
Oh, okay.
in there as well, in that budget number for you. So
Okay.
they have somebody come out and assess it. So,
All right.
thank you.
Well, thank you.
2 minutes.
All right. So we are adjourn our work session, and in 2 minutes we will start our or whenever Josh gets back, our council meeting. And Linda, would you call the roll, please?
Manetza?
Here.
Bruger? Here. Scott?
Here.
Fritz?
Here.
McCaleb?
Here. Our invocation this evening will be given by Pastor Tim Taylor of Hope Reformed Church, Grand Haven. Please remain standing after the prayer for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father, I thank you for the great weather that we've had. I thank you for this incredible town that we get to be a part of. God, we pray for wisdom, for the decisions that need to be made. And God, may we continue to be a city that's inviting and welcoming to all. And may you be glorified. We love you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. On to the approval of consent and regular agendas. So are there any changes?
Yes, Your Honor, I would like to request that 2 items be removed from the agenda tonight. One is under the consent agenda, item 11J. And then the second is under new business, item 13B.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Anybody up here want to make any changes?
No, ma'am.
If not, I need a motion to accept the agendas with those 2 items removed.
So moved.
Support.
And moved and seconded. Comments or questions? If none, we will vote.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza,
Yes.
Bruegger,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
McCaleb.
Yes. All right, general business called the audience. This is one of 2 opportunities for anyone to address council on anything that they have on their mind. So if you are in that position, just come and tell us who you are and where you live.
Kathleen Bobeldike, where I live, did you say?
Yes, please.
Holland, Michigan, down the road. I'm just here with Worship on the Waterfront, so I just wanted to let you know that I'm here if you have any questions about our event, some changes that might be going on down there this year, cost of the venue, that kind of thing. And I think it's pretty sure that Shar said it's been approved, but we just have to kind of get the cost narrowed down. And from some figures that I had from last year, it was basically $120 a week. And I think they were going to try jumping it to $400 a week, and then an extra $200 possibly for the rental of the one side of the concession stand. So I guess my plea is that maybe if we could do that in gradual steps, because we've been doing some fundraising since November, and we'd have to work that into our budget a little bit. So do I have any questions about that or anything about what's going to be happening down there?
Well, this is comment time, so I think that's, no, you're fine, but it is something that we should,
Okay, just to let you know I'm here if anybody has
Okay.
any questions.
all right,
All right,
so
thank you.
this, okay, appreciate it. I didn't want to cut you off if you had other things to say. Okay, all right. Anybody else want to address council at this time?
I don't know if this is the right time or not now either. Shar said that it was. I'm Tammy Harvey, 1030 Oak Lane. I'm the city's representative for the hospital board. And on item G, under the consent agenda, there's some we want to talk to you about, and I don't know if this is the right time, or do you want to wait?
You can just make a comment on it if you want.
Yeah, I would love.
We don't exchange, ideas. It's just whatever your comment is, so whatever you want to say, it's.
I'm sort
Listen
of
and
on the
take
same
notes.
boat that Worship on the Waterfront is. We like the fees waived. We're having our 100th anniversary, no chiz, and we're going to be at the waterfront, which is going to be open to everybody. When we first came to Parks and Rec, we were going to close it off, and now we're just having inside the depot. We're going to just be inside the depot is where we will have an alcohol and have our license and everything, and inside with a little bit of fencing on the outside, so nobody can come in. But then once we're done with that, we're going to open up the whole stadium to anybody coming in to celebrate with us and go through a short program and just a lot of music through the years and just celebrate the community that has been there to support North Ottawa. So,
Okay,
do you
well,
have any other?
Okay, no, that's good. The agenda item does ask for the waiving of fees, so.
It does.
Yep.
I just wanted to
Okay.
say that if you did waive the fees, we consider that a generous in-kind donation, and you'd be one of our sponsors a little bit too. So I just wanted to throw that out there because we work so well with, we just love being part of the city, and just wanted to say that.
All righty, thank you.
Hi, I thought I'd tag team with Tammy. My name is Michelle Bakewell. I live in Holland, but I work at North Ottawa Community Hospital, and as she said, we're celebrating our 100-year anniversary, and I'm coordinating a fitness event, Fitness Sampler it's called. So it's going to be 6 consecutive weeks beginning in the middle of June, ending in July, right before Coast Guard kicks off, where we'll be offering a variety of free fitness classes to people in the community. My vision is to have it at Waterfront Stadium. I can just imagine how beautiful it would be with people exercising there, but it's open, free. Going to be a very simple event. Just come, bring your yoga mat, bring a water bottle, and enjoy the great outdoors and get some exercise. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, Council, my name is Scott Rowe, and I live in Grand Haven Township. I just had a kind of a point of clarification. Is this the open public, like, time to speak, or is there going to be a discussion period and then more time for comments? I'm just a little unclear on how the
Kind of
process
depends.
works.
Well, this is just call the audience. So if you want to you can address an item that's on the agenda, or you can address an item that's not on the agenda.
Okay.
There's not necessarily public comment time at every agenda item, so. On public hearings, there are, if you're here for one of the public hearings, you can make your comment at that time.
Is that the zoning board's?
No.
Okay. Okay. The only comment that I guess I have to make is in regards to what I thought was the zoning. There's a question that's going to be discussed tonight, or?
Yes,
Okay.
it will be discussed, yes.
And I just wanted to kind of bring some points for consideration since we're talking about it. One of which was whether or not I believe the zoning board would enact anything that would restrict the sale of marijuana in the city. Is that correct?
Well, if you want to make a comment, this is not the time for it, okay?
I just want to I live in Grand Haven Township, and I'd like to, my comment is that I think that it's 55% of the city voted in favor of legalization of marijuana. And, you know, I believe in democracy, and I think that people have spoken. And I understand that there's some, I believe that there's some, you know, discussion of whether or not to completely ban or have the zoning board ban the sales here. But I'd like to point out that it does affect the revenue for the city going forward. I think that essentially, if my understanding is correct, that the Proposition 1 that this is pertaining to, you have to, if you opt out, you're also opting out of 15% of the tax revenue generated statewide. That 15% is mandated. You have to have a store in the municipality in order to tap into those funds, basically, to receive any of it. There's another 15% for Ottawa County. And right now, Crockery Township is the only place in Ottawa County that is even considering allowing sales. If they don't go forward with that, that would mean that Grand Haven is eliminating any possibility of any future revenue from the state in the effect of 15% municipally and 15% countywide. And I just think that should really be considered. Going forward, that's a positive revenue stream, regardless of how large or small it is. It needs to be considered. Instead of just a carpet ban or blocking or anything that goes along those lines, perhaps be open to the fact that it should be allowed to be, to at least you can regulate and have 1 or 2 stores. There's ways of regulating it without a ban completely. By not having a ban, you at least leave the opportunity open to generate revenue for our city and for our county. And that's, you know, this is revenue that's projected, I believe, to be $260+ million by 2030 or 2023. And that was by the most recent polls or the recent studies. It's a sizable chunk of money.
All right. Well, thanks for your comment.
Thank you very much.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. If not, we will proceed with our consent agenda.
Thought maybe Warren Rusin might want to make a comment. Warren?
Oh.
Don't want to make him wait till the bitter end. I don't know how late it might be.
Oh, okay.
Fall asleep.
Hi, Warren.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I'm actually here for 2 reasons, and I won't be short. I'm getting shorter together. I represent an organization called Young Eagles. And the Young Eagles are stationed out at our airport.
and they're sponsored by the EAA, and we have a chapter here, 211. I took the Young Eagles over 3 years ago. And what they do is we gather pilots who belong to the EAA and chapter 211, and we fly children from the ages of 8 to 17 for free. In the last 2 years since I took it over, we've flown 256 children out of our airport. If the children are interested enough, and you can read it in there, we also give them a free $190 ground school course to start them if they're interested in flying. The pilots themselves donate everything. They donate the fuel. And my biggest problem is I've had to turn children away both years because I do not get enough pilots. And this year, I expect actually more children because we have put up a display at the library here depicting the Young Eagles. And then at the entrance, the main entrance, we also have a display that I helped with that is from the museum depicting the early start and the history of our airport. And it's extremely interesting, and you should take it. And I guess the reason that it's important for me to be here and to hope is that our pilots get absolutely nothing in return. And I would like to see if it be at all possible if the city could grant them a discount on their fuel. And we start our first flight on June the 1st and the second one on July the 13th. So you have lots of time to think about this. Just think about it the right way. That's all.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Warren. Appreciate it.
Any questions or anything?
No, I think getting young people involved in aviation is a fantastic thing.
Cool. It's fun also.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Young at heart.
Okay, did we miss anyone else out there? Okay, if not, we will proceed with the consent agenda.
This is to approve the special work session and regular council meeting minutes of March 4th, 2019. Approve the bills memo in the amount of $2,177,074.06. Proclaim April 7th through 13th, 2019 as National Library Week in the city of Grand Haven and encourage all residents to visit the Loudoun District Library this week, explore what's new, and engage with their librarian. Authorize Ashley Latch as the designated certifying officer for the purpose of a 2019 Michigan Community Development Block Grant. Award the 2019 street resurfacing project to Michigan Paving and Materials in the not-to-exceed amount of $472,137.95 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. Approve the special event application for Worship on the Waterfront to hold a series of concerts at the Lynn Sherwood Waterfront Stadium on Sunday evenings from June 23rd through August 25th, 2019, from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Approve the special event application from the North Ottawa Community Health System's 100-year celebration to take place in the Grand Trunk Depot and Lynn Sherwood Waterfront Stadium on June 13th, 2019, from 5 o'clock p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Permit alcohol consumption and waive fees of $901. Approve an agreement with Williams & Works for a zoning ordinance update at a cost not to exceed $38,900 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. And approve the terms of Brennan Newhoff Professional Engineering Service Agreement Amendment Number 3 in the reduced amount of $3,794.56 for construction phase services for beacon installation at the Grand Haven Airport and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
And I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on any of the items on the consent agenda?
So question for Dan, we've worked with Michigan Paving Materials before and we're satisfied with their work. Or for Derek. Sorry, Derek, I didn't see the bright shirt.
Good evening, Your Honor. Derek Gatis, Director of Public Works. Yes, they were the ones that did the paving last year, and
Okay.
we're very satisfied.
All right, no problems last year?
Nope.
No problems in prior years?
So if you notice in the memo, we got some extra streets because we got some good bid pricing, and our crews actually requested one of those that was brought up last fall as well on Taylor. So trying to hold it together till the pavers get here in the spring.
Okay. Sounds good.
Just, you know, I think I told you before that I've seen a few stones up to the top of the surface in a few places, so maybe we can keep those down this year. I don't like to see the big stones on the top of the surface like that, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, I think either we got to reduce the size of the stone or we have to make it a little deeper or whatever, but
We'll make sure we get on that.
yeah, okay.
this year.
Yeah, I know I talked to you before about it, so thanks, Derek.
All right, thanks, Derek.
They were faster.
Yeah.
On top.
I'm curious about I have a question on item F, the comments that were made by the representative of Worship on the Waterfront. Was this the change in cost? I'm not sure what precipitated that, unless it was just, but I don't know if this has been ongoing negotiation or all of a sudden it raised its head.
You know, I guess I'd like to get back to you on that. I've not had any previous discussion about that. Usually there's a clear and overt request for you to consider, and that just wasn't included in the agenda item. That doesn't mean it's not being discussed. So if you approve the event tonight, at least they can lock in their dates, and then if they have further requests to make, we can bring that back at a future meeting.
Okay.
Nail down
So-
exactly what those are and give you our reasons for either agreeing or not agreeing. You know, we do have bills to pay, but then again, we have some great free events down there that we want to encourage.
Right, okay, so we're approving the dates and the events, but some of this other stuff, you can still work through. All right, I just want to make sure that we could do that, so, all right. Any other questions? Oh, all right, I think we're ready to vote.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruder?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
And Caleb?
Yes. All right, so I'm going to open a public hearing to receive input regarding a new off-premises tasting room license for Long Road Distillery LLC at 102 Washington Avenue. Is there anybody here who'd like to address that public hearing item? If not, I will close the public hearing and ask Linda to read item C.
This item is to recommend approval of an off-premises tasting room license to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission for Long Road Distillers LLC at 102 Washington Avenue and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The Main Street Downtown Development Authority and the administration recommend approval.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. And Pat, do you want to give us the details on revisiting of Long Road?
Sure. This is an establishment. That space already serves alcoholic beverages. It's part of the Copper Post restaurant. The applicants have gone through all the process with the city. The Public Safety Department has had a chance to look things over, and you've got a copy of the report from Public Safety. It comports with the zoning use provisions of the ordinance, and is all. It also comports with the process you're going through is spelled out in your ordinance, that there must be a public hearing before you approve it. So you're ready to approve this thing, and I believe they're here tonight. The owners again have joined us, and if they'd like to fill in any blanks that I've missed, I'm sure they'll do that.
All right, so any Long Road folks want to say anything? All right, pardon? Okay, no problem. Anybody else want to address this? Otherwise, we'll just discuss it up here. So, anybody have a comment?
This is where we say talk amongst ourselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to talk amongst ourselves.
Well, I'll just quickly say that I'm very happy that the city expedited this process and that we had the opportunity to welcome back Long Road to Grand Haven. And I think you'll find a great place here, and I'm looking forward to stopping by for to inspect. Yeah, anyway, there you go. So no, thrilled that you're back. Thanks for being here.
I guess I would also say I'm glad you didn't give up on us. Glad to have you here.
I'll just echo all that. I mean, I'm glad to see you guys at least are still interested in Grand Haven after being beaten up as bad as you have been. But glad to see you coming in and going into a good establishment there. I know one of the investors down there sitting out there in the audience, so you'll be fine there. So welcome back to Grand Haven. I really appreciate it a lot. I know you guys are going to be a good admission to Grand Haven here. So as I said before, I know you guys will do a good job. So thanks again.
I'm glad you found a location in town. It was good you did that. I'm glad you didn't quit on us.
Well, I have to echo that. There's always, I'd rather see you in a private establishment. And I think it's a very good thing for the community. Hope it's a good thing for you all. And ready to move forward. So, yeah. Sounds like a plan to me. I think we're ready to vote.
Bruder?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. All right. Next item, I will open a public hearing to receive input regarding the submission of 2019 Department of Natural Resources grant application for both Sluka Field and Mulligan's Hollow improvements. Is there anyone here that would like to address that issue in the public hearing? And if not, I will close that public hearing and ask Linda to read item F.
Item is to approve submission of 2019 Department of Natural Resources grant applications for both Sluka Field and Mulligan's Hollow improvements. The Parks and Recreation Board and the administration recommend approval.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Or
Been moved and seconded. Pat, you want to fill us in on this, or is this Ashley? Okay.
Ashley, could you step up to the mic so Eric's listening audience can hear you loud and clear? And if she's making her way up there, I can do the computer if you like.
Ashley Latch, City Manager's Office. So after the previous council meeting where Derek and we received your feedback regarding these grant applications, we went back to the drawing board and kind of made these improvements based on the comments you made, revised that scope a little bit for you. So with the Mulligan's Hollow improvements, the only major change to the scope that you'll see here is what you suggested, but for that parking area between the Imagination Station and the parking lot, we added a little bit of green space and some landscaping, picnic tables per your suggestion, and just push that parking a little further back, making it a little more inviting. So that for that project, we suggest applying for the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant in the amount of $300,000. That has a 41% match at $216,500. And then in addition to that, still applying for that Land and Water Conservation Fund grant as well in the amount of $258,250 with a 50% match at $258,250. Obviously, if granted one, it would be one or the other, not both. Just kind of boost our odds. And then for Sluka Field, based on the comments at the previous meeting, we scaled the project back for the recreation passport grant process just to include the play structure. So that will include replacing the existing playground with a new ADA accessible piece, new playground surfacing, an additional bench and table seating, and an educational garden as well as solar lighting. In that narrowed scope, we would be applying to the recreation passport program in the amount of $150,000 with a 33% match at $75,000.
All right. Any questions, comments for Ashley?
So are these two separate grant applications?
Yeah, technically three completely separate.
Okay, the three are, okay.
Two for
What?
one project and one for Sluka.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I know the Sluka Field last time we said we weren't prepared to do all that $1 million worth of work, so you brought it down to just the play structures?
Yes.
Play area? Okay.
Narrowed the scope of that significantly for the time being.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought we were just gonna break that down at Sluka Field, but I didn't think we were gonna break it two separate ones for Mulligan's Hollow.
That is the same proposal as the previous meeting.
Was it?
We just revised the scope items in that parking lot, making
Okay.
more of that barrier green public space.
That's gonna be two proposals to them then, right?
For that
For the two
project
grants.
specifically, we'd apply for two separate grants to boost our odds.
Okay.
If we don't get the one, we're hoping to get the one that has the higher grant amount. If we don't get it, we fall back to the federal land and water conservation, which
For
is
the
just
small one.
50%.
Oh, that's for a different grant then, okay.
Yeah, same project, two
Same
different
project,
grants.
okay.
If we get one, we don't get the other.
All right.
Okay.
So is that a certainty then? You're gonna get one or the other, but not both?
Pat's guaranteeing, if not, we'll just take it out of his
That's
salary.
a certainty.
Yeah, well, odds are long as always, but
Yeah.
we've got good help and Ashley's doing a great job.
Okay.
Very good.
Confidence.
Hey, she said it, full confidence. We have it on film and on the radio.
That's all we need.
So on Sluka, it's only the play structure? Are we doing anything about that parking behind the
Don't believe that was
the
in
gas station?
I do not believe that was in the revised scope.
Okay.
Derek Gatis, Public Works Director. No, we narrowed that right down just the playground. There's a couple sidewalks, and that's it. Everything else is a future proposed project.
Okay.
So, in order to do this quickly and turn around, they just didn't take all that stuff off the print. They
Okay.
reused the same print, said proposed everything else, and we're going to apply just for the play structure. So.
I just know we could use a little parking there, but I didn't know if that was still left a part of it or not. Okay.
I apologize for scrolling around. I should have left it where Ashley left it. Go peek.
Just that right there. So.
All right.
Okay.
So actually, is the slide drawn to scale there? I'm not sure I can see. I'm just playing with you. I'm really. Yeah, I hadn't said much, so I felt like I needed to ask a question, and sorry, I'm sarcastic. No, I think a new and improved playground is a great addition to that neighborhood and that park. I think that's a dynamite thing to do. And as has already been said here, I'm appreciative that you scaled that size back. I think we're making a significant investment in Sluka Field this summer, and the playground will be a little bit of icing on the cake for the neighborhood. So I'm thrilled with that. Thanks.
Just make sure that it's within view of all those picture windows on the other side of Waverly.
Yeah.
We want to make sure they can keep watching the kids across the street.
And listening.
And listen, absolutely. All right. Any other comments, questions? No. All right. I think we're ready to vote.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruger?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. Next item.
Next item is under new business, and this is to approve the low bid and approve the contractor services agreement with Pro Audio Incorporated in the amount of $100,411 for the installation of a new sound system at the Grand Haven Musical Fountain, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The Musical Fountain Committee and the administration recommend approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. And you want to do this, Pat, or is Andy?
Well, Andy and Dan are both here. They've
Oh,
got
okay.
better and more immediate knowledge of this than I, so I was
All
hoping
right.
one or both of them could come up and answer any questions you might have. I know that they're very close on the fundraising, and get it ordered now, we can have it in this spring.
That would be awesome.
Andy Cawthon, 50 Howard, Chair of the Musical Fountain Committee. Funding-wise, we're at about $130,000 on a $150,000 goal. Pro Audio was the contractor on the current system. Components that would go into it are JBL, which is what's there now, but obviously 30 years newer. So they have the experience, they've got the brand. Big consideration for us was climate worthiness, because the speakers in the housings take rough handling due to weather, and JBL seems to be the brand. That was our recommendation.
Okay.
They were middle of the bids, bid from a distributor of Danley. We tried the Danley speakers, didn't find the sound quality there. No bidders were using tough brands. We didn't stand up to the use.
Oh, we want them to go for another 30 years, so that's right.
I don't have much more input. I mean, the current system's been there 23 years, 24 years. We will have an advantage with the new system. The doors won't be open in the winter anymore. As you know, we had the nativity scene, and unfortunately we don't have that anymore, but it will expand the lifespan of the speakers. So, I mean, we've had JBL there. We weren't looking for JBL, but I mean, been there, pretty much a flawless system so far, so we'll get an upgrade, we'll get a little bit better quality, different range of speakers, yeah, better sound quality, so.
So, anytime I see such a big disparity in quotes, it makes me notice. Do you have any concern with the fact that Pro Audio is so much cheaper than the second highest bid?
It's just the price of the speakers. Was the Danley speakers are a little bit more expensive. And I don't doubt, we talked extensively about it. They're a good speaker, but we thought for this application that they're designed for big open, they put them in a lot of big stadiums. And the demonstration that we had last spring, the people that viewed it or listened to it just didn't like the quality. Not saying that there's not a different model. It was a different model that was spec that we listened to. They're a good speaker, but to pay is the sound quality you're going to get and the durability worth $36,000? That's what we talked about, and we feel JBL has been there a long time. They're a company that's been around many years, so they have the products to back it up.
So you're saying the better speakers are the cheaper speakers?
For our use.
Okay. Well, I just, when I see a $26,000 difference in bid price at this amount of bid, that's pretty significant. So I always ask that question. Are you satisfied with the bid and with the product and with the contractor?
Yes, absolutely.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, they lasted 30 years at JBL. It's been a good product all around.
Right.
So I think we're pretty good. And I think you got, was it Crown you're using for everything else too in there? Did I read that also?
Fires a Crown. Correct.
Yeah, and they're pretty good too, so we're pretty well set. So I'm pretty happy.
So it can be done by the spring?
No,
No.
there's a 10-week lead time.
Okay.
Once we get the contract approved with them.
The spring is 2 days.
And the talk about with the committee is we'd like to do it somewhere in maybe midsummer and have a midweek debut of the new system. To do that, we'd have to take the fountain down for probably 3 days. We figured do it during a week and then have a big reveal, make it a really nice event.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
But we haven't nailed that down yet.
All right, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Second one, nicely done.
Thank you.
Good.
I've done some work with Pro Audio when I used to do the Battle of the Bands, and that Ken used to do a lot of work for me there. So he's pretty good at what he does. So I'm pretty confident in what he does.
Okay. We have no other comments? We will vote.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
Ruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. All right, next item.
Next item is to approve an introductory resolution to establish a new section 40-331 of the zoning ordinance prohibiting recreational marijuana establishments in all zoning districts. The Planning Commission recommends denial and the administration recommends approval.
All right, is there a motion?
Moved.
Support.
It's been moved and seconded. Pat, do you want to explain to us where the purpose of adding the zoning ordinance to our previous?
Could we get who moved and seconded that again, please?
I seconded it.
Josh, Denny?
I moved it.
Denny moved it, Josh seconded.
Sure, the city received, as part of a
Was that for timing?
collaboration with about 60 other municipalities, we hired Dickinson Wright. It's a good timing on Ron Bolche's part, to do a full analysis of the act and the ballot issue, and give us advice leading up to the election. There was some speculation that it might pass, so we decided to engage the attorneys ahead of time so we'd be ready to act should the legislation pass. They prepared a package for all of these municipalities that signed on with this collaboration, and I think most have followed through on that advice, and the advice was twofold. On one hand, use your general police authority as a city to prohibit marijuana establishments in the city as permitted by the act that was voted on. The act that was voted on did in fact make marijuana use legal, but it also provided for the ability of local units to opt out if they so chose. That was part of the actual ballot authorization. And then the secondary portion is the zoning end of things. If the authority to regulate it citywide were challenged based on land use, that you didn't follow the proper due process for land use legislation, that you ought to go about it and also include it in your zoning ordinance. So one kind of follows the other. In any event, it is currently not legal to have recreational marijuana establishments anywhere in the city. To address it in the zoning ordinance and say permit it in one or more districts under some circumstances would be contradictory to what you've already done. So the Planning Commission is not recommending that you adopt an outright prohibition in the zoning ordinance. However, administration is following the advice of the city attorney and saying as long as you've already made it illegal throughout the city, you might as well make it a little more defensible, if you can do that, by authorizing the zoning ordinance to also comport with the other law. Ron can probably say it much quicker and better than I just did, and if you have any questions, it's his advice that I'm following, so here he is.
That's a very nice summary, Pat. Just in general, what we want to make sure is that the general regulatory prohibition you adopted already is not somehow attacked by saying that is a land use regulation. Land use regulations have to go through a zoning ordinance amendment, a public hearing process before the Planning Commission. That ordinance you adopted didn't go through a public hearing by the Planning Commission. Therefore, someone could argue at some point that that ordinance you already adopted is illegal, invalid, and therefore you would not have a prohibition in the city against marijuana establishments. If your intent is to prohibit marijuana establishments, we recommend you adopt this ordinance to prohibit that kind of argument being made against you.
All right, good enough, thank you. Anybody have questions for Ron? Before he sits down? Or anybody up here, sorry. Comments?
Tom?
Who's going to have public comment or not?
I have comments.
Okay.
Go ahead. He has them written out here.
I have mine written out. I'm opposing the zoning ordinance amendment, just as the planning commission opposed it. I'll preface my comments with a couple of points. First, I did oppose Prop 1 last November. I spoke against it in the council meeting, voted against it. It's an initiated law, should have been developed legislatively, so problems could be worked out. Compromises made and workable regulations put in place. I think that implementing recreational marijuana law will have significant problems, and I voted in favor of the city's ban on recreational marijuana establishments. I did so to give the legislature time to develop rules, allow other communities to work through some problems, and only then to decide if we should back off or not on complete prohibition. I see a lot of problems going forward. However, I respect democracy. 56% of our voters in the city, my constituents, voted to approve this law. I believe it is our duty as elected officials not to silence or frustrate the voters, but rather to find careful, prudent, cautious way to enable the will of the voters while minimizing unintended consequences. Second, I will note I'm an engineer by training and profession, having recently retired from a 30-year facility engineering gig at a major industrial corporation, and I'm in no way a lawyer or legal expert. If the city attorney were to tell me how to design and operate a factory, I'm sure I'd be as politely amused by his comments as he's going to be by mine. We've been told this zoning ordinance amendment is needed for a few reasons. We've been told in our memo that we need to put the prohibition into zoning because people wishing to do business in the city will look at our zoning ordinance and not general law and not know that we prohibited recreational marijuana establishments. Sorry, that one doesn't pass the giggle test. We've been advised that prohibition that we've already adopted could be circumvented if it were challenged as a land use regulation outside of the zoning rules, as we've just heard. However, the text of the Act in Section 6.1 states that a municipality may completely prohibit or limit the number of marijuana establishments within its boundaries. Individuals may petition to initiate an ordinance to provide for the number of marijuana establishments allowed within the municipality or completely prohibit marijuana establishments within the municipality, and so on. The section goes on to describe how such a petition may qualify to be on a general election ballot. Marijuana establishments are broadly defined in the Act, and there's nothing there that appears to describe them in terms of land use regulation. The plain language of the Act says that the city's already adopted prohibition is lawful and enforceable and within the city's authority. Unless there's case law to suggest that the words don't mean what they say they mean, then I don't understand the concern that such a land use argument would work. Our current ordinance appears to be sufficient prohibition. At the Planning Commission meeting, there was a lot of discussion about forthcoming LARA regulations in a sense that those regulations would supersede the city's prohibiting ordinance. In fact, it was suggested that the impending LARA regulations made the adoption of zoning prohibitions an urgent matter. I don't see anything in this act to suggest this is true. Marijuana establishments will remain prohibited in the city of Grand Haven until a new ordinance is adopted, regardless of the state regulations. There was discussion at the PC meeting about whether a land use can be completely prohibited in the city. In fact, though, Act 110 of 2006, the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, in Section 207, does allow land uses to be prohibited regardless of legal status. It simply says that a zoning ordinance or a zoning decision shall not have the effect of totally prohibiting the establishment of a land use within a local unit of government in the presence of a demonstrated need for that land use. Of course, one might argue that if 56% of the voters in the city voted to allow marijuana establishments, then that demonstrates a need. Again, I tend to defer to democracy. So if our current ordinance prohibition is not going to be ambushed by land use regulation arguments and not superseded by LARA regulations, then why do we need to add it to our zoning? I think the real reason is because under the Zoning Enabling Act, in cities and villages, unlike townships and counties, zoning ordinances and decisions may specifically not be challenged by referendum. Instead, citizens may file a protest petition requiring a supermajority of council members to vote for the ordinance before it's adopted. I believe that adding a prohibition to the zoning ordinance is intended to prevent the potential referendum described in Section 6.1 of the Recreational Marijuana Act. Again, I think the intent appears to deny the voters. I think a large majority of Planning Commission expressed the correct view. Marijuana establishments as a potential land use should be carefully studied and accommodated, if at all, in places and at times and under conditions suitable for the use, with due consideration of the impact on other land uses, just as they consider other land uses, rather than using the zoning ordinance to reinforce City Council's policies.
All right, thanks, Bob. Any other comments?
That was a lot, Bob.
You want me to start over?
Yeah, that one part about page 3, no. No, thank you. I was at the Planning Commission meeting as well as Bob was, and got to listen into some interesting discussion. And rather than, I've just got to share my thoughts, trying to think about how to, you had a lot there, so I'm just going to go for it. The vote, being 56% of the population, voted to allow recreational marijuana use to become a non-criminal activity. I think I look at that, the vote, it had essentially a number of different parts to it, but in particular, I think relevant to this conversation, at least two parts. One is the use and, I guess it was consumption, but I guess we'll call it the use of marijuana and consumption is one aspect of it, and then the sale of it is an entirely another aspect of it. And I'm not entirely certain because we don't have the number. I could be wrong, I'll admit it right up front, but that the full 56% of the population that voted to allow recreational marijuana to be a non-criminalized activity, I'm not sure that same 56% would say, yes, I'd like it to be sold right down the street from me. And I think that, in particular, for me, is the concern with this ordinance as it's written, or excuse me, that if we did not prohibit it, it could be sold in areas of the town that we may not want it to be sold in. And so with that in mind, I'm in favor of voting that we continue to put legs under the prohibition that we did through the Emergency Powers Act. I do think that if this is something that the majority of the population wants, then it needs to go back through the Planning Commission and debated just in the same manner that we did the short-term housing, short-term housing, seasonal rentals. We debated that for, gosh, a year and a half, 2 years. And if we can give that much time and energy to short-term rentals, we ought to be giving at least that much time and energy to where exactly marijuana establishments for recreational purposes should be put in the city of Grand Haven or allowed. So I'm going to definitely be voting in favor of the resolution, if only for that, to allow the process to take shape. Now, I want to point out a key aspect of this zoning ordinance prohibition is the recreational marijuana establishments. And in particular, the recreational aspect of it. In the build-up to the vote last November, I had numerous conversations with folks about marijuana, marijuana, and I had a real difficult time finding a valid argument for recreational use to vote in favor of it. Without fail, maybe with one exception perhaps of, upwards to 100 conversations I had, probably exaggerating, it wasn't 100, but it was a number quite large. Without fail, the argument went back to, well, medical conditions. My neighbor or my family member has seizures, and medical marijuana is the only thing that has assisted them with that process. Or autism studies that have been done and shown that medical marijuana has a positive effect on folks who are studying or have autism. Time and again, they were medical reasons. And those, to me, carry weight rather than the recreational use, which is what we're debating today. So I think that in voting no for this, I'd like to work with my colleagues on council who are open to it, to looking at the medical marijuana sales in the city of Grand Haven. I think there is possibly a need for that, but as far as the recreational goes, I'm not in favor of that at this time, as I've said before. So I probably rambled there a little bit, but I think Bob's got some good arguments, but I want, again, I'll just go back to, if we spent so much time talking about short-term rentals, we ought to talk long and hard about where marijuana establishments from recreational purposes ought to go in the city. And if it was an illegal drug for as many years as it was, and it's still classified as an illegal drug at the federal level, that's not something I want to take lightly. That's not something I want to do on a whim. So I'm going to be voting, what am I calling this, in favor of this tonight. There we go. rambled a lot, but hopefully I got it out there.
All right.
I didn't write it down like Bob. Sorry, I should have done that one more, yeah.
You want to read mine?
Yeah. No, Bob, I don't want to read yours.
I think like Josh said, I'd like to put some legs underneath this, this legislation that we passed that said, no recreational marijuana sales in the city of Grand Haven. And I think if that's what we need to do, that's what we should do. I don't want to see this go to court, like you suggested, Ron, that it could happen, and we taxpayer end up paying a lot of money to go through the court system and get this thing hashed out in court. And I think we need to do it right now. We need to put some legs underneath this thing and make it in concrete that we're not going to allow it in Grand Haven. And like Pat said also, that when this law passed, it passed with that stipulation in it that we could opt out. And so it was very clear that we can, and they voted that way, and I don't see a problem. We should opt out of it, and we should do this, I think, and we should make it in concrete. We should just say, okay, let's change our zoning ordinance and make sure we're not going to be affected in court and have a long, drawn-out court battle to figure this thing out. I don't think we need to do that. So I'm going to vote for this.
Well, seeing that the majority of our constituents voted for recreational marijuana, the only thing I have a problem with this whole thing is when it says all zoning districts. You know, I just don't think we should have just don't like the wording of this. I think we should have an area for them like anything else. We have an area for pornographic materials if you want to sell them. There is a location we have in our zoning for that. I think we need to have this have an establishment someplace where, or in our zoning someplace where it is prohibited. I mean, our constituents, the majority did vote for it. And sure, do I want it in my neighborhood? No, that's what you would do a zoning district where you would say no. But you should find a location. It's inevitable. It's going to be here. As Bob quoted at the last time we talked about it, was that sooner or later, you know, you're going to have to do something about it because they did vote it in, and we're going to move forward. So I'm going to vote no on this because the simple fact is that it says all zoning districts on it. And I think we should go back, like Josh says, and debate it, make sure we get it in the right places where you need to be at.
Okay, well, I'm going to support this ordinance because I think it's important that we do establish that use every safeguard that's available to us in order to secure our position as a city today. Yes, it passed as a recreational marijuana. It's not talking about medical marijuana. That's a whole different issue. But as far as it's passed, so it's legal to possess, legal to grow your own. But also that opt-out, if communities didn't want to have storefronts and sales, they could do so, and that's what we've done. And this just adds one more aspect to that. We're not the only ones. Most of our neighbors have done the same thing. And so I think for if we were to opt out and say, well, that we're going to allow this here, and when everybody else has said we don't want it here, then it makes you a mecca for a series of establishments. And I don't want to see that happen. I wouldn't want to see that happen. Even if our neighbors said yes, I would not be interested in saying no, or to agreeing with them, because I think it's something that we should not do. But we should particularly not do it because all our neighbors are passing the same kind of things to safeguard themselves from this. So I think this is it's not something that we need to encourage or to have sales in our neighborhoods. I don't know. I know I'm not interested in having it in my neighborhood. And so I'm going to support this. I think it's a good thing. to protect ourselves, to protect our community, people in our community. I've seen a lot of people be greatly damaged by the use of of drugs, and which is, the potency is much greater from what I understand and what we have today and what we had when I was a college student way back in the 60s. And I think that is it's a damaging thing. It's an addictive thing. And to say, well, look at all the money you could make, what you're gonna really do is you're gonna grow a new bureaucracy. And that bureaucracy is gonna eat up any money that you could possibly make from having people fog their brains with this substance. So I'm going to support this. I think that we need to do whatever it is we can to safeguard our city. So that is, unless anybody else has other comments, I think we can vote.
Manetza?
Took me off guard there.
Yeah, that was really quick. Do we need, I'm sorry, can I ask, Bob had mentioned supermajority. Do we need a 4-1 vote on this to prohibit, or are we just a majority? No. Okay,
No.
all right.
No,
I didn't know where you had mentioned that in there.
I said that I was talking about a protest petition under the Zoning Enabling Act, which was the only recourse that people would have under, if this is in our zoning ordinance.
I got you. Okay.
That's because you can't have a referendum.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep.
But no, this is just an ordinance adoption on our part, so it's a simple majority for us. But my vote would be no.
Bruder?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
No.
McCaleb?
Yes. Next item
is to approve an introductory resolution to adopt the 2015 Michigan Plumbing Code. The administration recommends approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Somebody here to talk to us about the plumbing code? No.
I think just me.
Oh, it's you.
Well, this had received very positive feedback when it was discussed earlier that we're going to bring this in-house and hire a contract plumbing inspector and not use the state any longer. We've used the state ever since I've been here, and I believe it's a more efficient way to do business. We've got inspectors who are qualified. I don't think Jeremy's here tonight. I thought I might have seen him earlier, but not here now. To go out and do these inspections, and it seems very counterintuitive or counterproductive if you have an inspector come into your house and say everything looks good, or your business looks like you're all set to go, but you got to wait another week or 10 days until the plumbing guy shows up. I'd rather have the plumbing guy right here and making that immediate impact felt. I think it's a much better way to go about things, and we cover the costs. It's a cost neutral or cost benefit to the city to bring it in-house. So I think it's a good time to do it, and I recommend that we do adopt the plumbing code so we can then hire a local plumber and do it ourselves. I'm sorry, a local plumbing inspector.
Okay. All right.
You're gonna write your own code, huh?
Yeah. Adopt our own codes.
The 2015 code is the most current?
Correct.
Is it widely adopted in Michigan? I mean, it's the Michigan code, I assume most municipalities follow this one.
Yes, we all do, and then when we update the electric code and the mechanical code, the building code, we would also update this one actually, you'll probably have another one coming at you pretty shortly, because I think they do it every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I know, but we don't adopt them as fast as they come out.
Just right when you seem to get used to one, they come out with that new one. But yeah, we do it as quickly as we're able to get things together and get it to you.
All right.
I have to agree with this. I think, I've worked with a plumbing inspector, and it does take time to get them here sometimes, and jobs do get postponed, and sometimes trenches have to stay open. So it's a good idea that we do this. I'm in favor of doing this. I like the plumbing inspector from the state. I've worked with him really well, but it does postpone jobs, and we could get things done a lot faster than in a more timely manner than to wait for a plumbing inspector from the state to come. So I agree with this.
Yeah, I'll agree as well. I think this is, what is this, the first or second step in the process of bringing plumbing inspections in-house. And as a contractor who has had to wait for the state and plumbing inspector, I'm very excited to see this. I'm pleased to see this come in-house. In particular, from a customer service level, you know, I guess in a one regard, the city is competition for the state inspector, and I believe that we in the city of Grand Haven can provide a higher level of customer service than the state has thus far provided for our citizens. A couple specific examples I could have of the plumbing inspector saying he'll be there on Thursday, but not the state plumbing inspector saying he'll be there on Thursday, but not providing a time, not even a morning or afternoon. And so the homeowner has to sit home all day, or a contractor, or I have to pay somebody to sit out on site waiting to let the plumbing inspector in, and he doesn't show up until 4 o'clock. That's just not good customer service. So I'm glad we'll be able to bring this in-house, and at a minimum, I think we owe this to our citizens to do it. So I'm glad that it won't cost us any extra money as well to do so.
Absolutely.
That's all I got.
I have to agree, Josh. Anytime we can do something in-house, it's so much more convenient for our constituents. I know for a fact that some people are, well, you're in construction sites. Sometimes they say they'll be on Thursday, but didn't tell you what Thursday they're going to show up. You know, because they got busy on the other side of the state or in Grand Rapids or someplace else, and they don't have the time to get here. They don't even make a courtesy call sometimes. They'll let you know you're not coming. So having this ability to do it here in-house is so much better. I have to agree 100%.
Is there an international plumbing code? Because this is the Michigan plumbing code. I'm glad, what I was going to say is, even if, I don't know if there is or isn't one, but when we sign into some of these international codes, it has absolutely nothing to do with the state of Michigan. So, and what our needs and conditions are. So I'm glad that this is the Michigan plumbing code and not the international plumbing code, because at least it's local.
Yeah.
Fairly local. Just, and I think this is a great idea. So I'm all about efficiency. I think we're ready to vote.
There's a joke here somewhere, but I can't.
The best code on the block.
Yeah. We're not going to go there.
I'm not,
Bruger,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes.
And Caleb.
Yes.
Next item is to approve an agreement with Abbenmarsh to provide professional design and construction administration services for the Riverwatch project at a cost not to exceed $126,400 or 15% of total project costs, whichever is less, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The administration recommends approval.
All right, is there a motion
So moved?
Second.
and support? This is an exciting project. Are you going to talk about this, Pat?
I'd be happy to. We're hoping to secure a community development block grant in order to bury some utility lines on Harbor Drive, as well as removing some trees and building a deck by the One South Harbor parking lot and enhancing access down to the waterfront. There's a variety of things that we're eligible for. The State Economic Development Corporation is interested in helping us create a better sense of place, and they recognize Grand Haven's waterfront as being one of those exceptional places in Michigan, I think. So they're very excited to work with us. I think the work that you did at Waterfront Stadium and the work that we did on Harbor Drive has kind of got them excited, and they want to see that investment continue. So the next step is to hire Abbenmarsh to do the design and construction administration. And I just note that should you approve this tonight, I'm going to ask Abbenmarsh if we can have their landscape architect come up and have a discussion with City Council about the waterfront shade structures or whatever, just to nail down some of that conceptual detail before they actually get going into preliminary design. Because I think there's great opportunity there to have some nice little picnic spots, but we don't want to overdo it. The Parks and Rec Board doesn't want to see clutter and obstruction down there. They don't want to see our green space getting eaten up. So I think we can have our cake and eat it too, so to speak, where we can create a really wonderful spot for people to gather and enjoy the space without overdoing it and making it kind of killing the goose that laid the golden egg, so to speak. So I'm very excited too, and I hope if this gets approved tonight, we're on track, and either this fall or next spring, we would be making these improvements.
All right. Comments?
Comments, Pat just already said it. I was at the Parks and Rec Board, and that's exactly what they said. They didn't want a lot of clutter down there. They didn't want to make sure it's nice and green. They love green spaces. That's what it's all about. If it's a park, you want more green space. So that would be very helpful if they did have them come by and give us some, even have a meeting with the Parks and Rec Board and let them show them some what they have, because they like to, see what's going on a little bit. So that's what I would think.
So this is the contract with Avon Marsh for design and construction administration. Yeah, but we're still trying to secure the funding?
Yes.
So
However, the funding is more or less committed. This is the next step to cement that funding. The grant administrators, MEDC, said you need to get this done before April 1st.
Yep.
And if we can get it done before April 1st, we're definitely in line. Now, Avon Marsh, they're our engineers of record. We have a good enough relationship to say, you've got the contract, we're ready to go. Don't quite start spending a lot of hours on it yet until we have that final grant authorized. But, we're very, very confident we are going to get the grant. But we do need to wait until we're working on the application now. But it's such an onerous application, as Ashley can attest, because she's in the middle of it. It's part of her training regimen. I really wanted to do it myself.
I bet you
Becky
did.
did. Yeah. Learn how to do a community development block grant. But it is quite onerous as you go through that process, so they do not invite us to apply lightly. So when they invite you to apply, there's every intention of making the grant, but we do have to go through the proper procedures, and this is part of that process to get this approved tonight.
Well, I understand. I assume Avon Marsh has helped to some degree with this application. They typically do.
They're very much on board.
Very good engineers of record for us. I'm confident of that. I just want to make sure that we spend the money as it rolls in, not ahead of time. Yep.
Well, I just add that I'm pleased that the MEDC is recognizing the hard work of the city of Grand Haven, city staff, and our citizens to make Grand Haven a destination spot in Michigan. And it's great to have some of these tax dollars that we're sending to Lansing come back our way for a project that's going to benefit the community and those come and visit. So I'm pleased with this. Thanks for all your hard work and continuing hard work. Ashley. We'll skip over Pat. He didn't do much with this,
Yeah.
so there you go.
You delegated.
Well done, Pat. That's all I got.
All right. No, I'm so looking forward, I think it's gonna, one more step to enhance our waterfront. I thought we kind of nailed it with the stadium, but, we got more things to do, so. Very good. I think we are ready to vote.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruegger?
Yes.
McCallum?
Yes. The unfinished business item, when you're ready.
Item is to submit language to the State of Michigan Governor and Attorney General for authorization to submit a question to the voters regarding an amendment to the city charter that would provide for additional taxing authority exclusively for infrastructure investment as follows. 1 mil in 2020, 1 mil in 2028 when the 2007 infrastructure bond is retired, and 1 mil in 2035 when the 2015 infrastructure bond is retired, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The administration recommends approval.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. This is just some of the wording that was suggested 2 weeks ago has been put in here so that when one bond is retired, the other mill will kick in.
Absolutely. I'm glad to see it cleaned up a lot. I mean, now people know that when one drops off, we're just going to add that one, so there's nothing changing. It's just going to leave it the same then. So I'm really, really happy that it's worded this way better. Gives clear definition of it all.
I think it's a little more complex, but it also answers all the questions, whereas before it left something to the imagination. I think our intentions are clear here.
Right.
Ooh.
Just reread it. Much better.
Thank
No
you,
further
Pat.
comment.
Yes.
Thank you. It was, your advice was heeded, and Ron helped look it over, and still going to take a great deal of effort on all of our parts. And the last 2 times we've done this, you have all spent the better parts of your summer wearing infrastructure T-shirts and sitting in cafes and grocery stores and churches answering questions from your public. So we'll be getting those set up and taking the show on the road.
Was that a heads up that
Yeah.
this is coming again? Okay, all right.
Be ready. Put on your walking shoes, and we're gonna have to, really educate. It's going to take we talk about it here a lot, and I'm afraid we've very much come to a solid conclusion. Nobody else is gonna fix it for us. So, we need to go out and spread that message and see what the voters think this November.
I think the key here is that when you do what you say you're going to do, people trust you. And when you don't, they don't. And we've had a pretty good track record of doing what we said we would do.
And I guess the message needs to continue to be that the effort here is to move from a borrow and fix plan or process that we've been doing for the last however many decades to a cash basis, because we can get a heck of a lot more bang for our buck with cash when taking care of our city infrastructure. We'll have to refine that statement a little bit, but the general idea is we want to switch from borrowing to cash and pay as you go. So we get a lot more mileage, a lot more sewer per, I don't know, anyway.
Yeah, it's almost a 50% increase on the money that you have available to you if you don't have financing and bonding costs. So that $1 million actually gets you $1 million worth of work and not just 500,000. So that's the purpose of what we're doing. And we already have doubled our money in our previous bond proposals, or maybe more than doubled our money. We're as far as our input as what we've been able to leverage. So I think we continue to do that and continue to renew our infrastructure and keep our city vibrant. So I think this is a good way to move forward. Anyone else? We're good? All right, we are ready to vote.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
Bruger?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
And Caleb?
Yes.
At the end.
All right. Report by City Council. That was the last item. Who wants to start?
I just have a fun one. We went to, I usually don't report on these, but hey, why not? GNL Chili Dogs had a fundraiser at Stan's, and I will say it was really neat to, GNL Chili Dog, GNL, is it called Chili Dogs? Just GNL. GNL burned down a short while ago, thereby, and their property was bought up by Panera Bread, and they were unable to have a going away party or a last day of business because the place burned down. And Stan's over in Centertown, or Washington Square. Thank you, across from the old Pass building. Cooks, I don't know, long ways back. Decided to host a community event to give them one last chance, give the community one last chance to have a GNL hot dog. And my 2 boys, one in particular, Caleb, is really going to miss those hot dogs. So we went down there and stood in line at 5:30. We were allowed 1 hot dog each. I gave my hot dog to Caleb. So I'm looking forward to going for dinner after this meeting is done tonight. So I missed out on my hot dog. But at any rate, that was a really neat event, and neat to see the community come together, to see Stan support another local business that has been in Grand Haven for a long time and is closing their doors. So there you go, a fun report from Josh. Nothing further.
I have one that's not fun, but it's
my normal, yeah.
At the Planning Commission meeting, the other hot topic item was the approval of the redevelopment of the Dairy Treat site. And there's a lot of people who are concerned about that and upset about that and thinking that, well, gee, why is this allowed to happen and all that? Well, I just got to explain that one thing, it's a Planning Commission issue, and the Planning Commission is obligated to follow the letter of the law and the ordinance. They're an administrative body. They can't change the ordinance. They can't put in conditions that aren't in there. And this development met the conditions of the ordinance. So approval was obligated. So those who think that it should have been modified, denied, whatever, sorry, they met the zoning ordinance, and that's why you have one. That's why it's got specific dimensions and specific conditions, specific mixtures of uses. If you meet them, then you can do what you want with your private property, and if you don't, then you have to ask for some other consideration. So as far as I could tell, they met those conditions. So I know there was a lot of controversy about that, but the controversy was really ill-placed. It was a by right development. I'm sure that when it's all said and done, we will look back at it and say, well, okay, it'll work in that site. And I think that the conditions that were adopted for the Waterfront 2 district, where that is located, did envision developments like that. And if we don't like what's coming out of our zoning ordinance, we certainly have the opportunity to modify the zoning ordinance, saying that, you know, that didn't really work for us. But in this case, this is what you get. This is what's approved, and this is why. So that's how zoning ordinances work. That's all I got.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Nothing.
Nothing? Nothing?
Just echo on Josh here on GNL Hot Dog. They're going to be surely missed because they are definitely a community. Steve put a lot of time and involvement in helping out in the community for us all over. So it's going to be definitely well missed. That's all.
Well, we're talking about GNL. I remember long ago when I first got on city council, the controversy about GNL was that he had cartoon characters on all 4 sides of his building, which sits in the middle of a parking lot. And he was only allowed 2. So he had to do something with 2 of his caricatures. They were the most adorable things, but he ran afoul of a zoning ordinance. Which, you know, I guess he said that he really didn't, you know, from what I understand, he said he didn't really mind a controversy because it just brought him an awful lot of business. But it was one of the iconic places in Grand Haven, so we're, you know, sorry to see him go, and sorry to go in such an ignominious fashion on the last day of business. What a strange way to out. So anyway, it's been, and as far as new construction, again, it's, you know, they follow the rules, and so they get okay to go. It's, you know, there is growth and there is progress and there is change, and I think we all, again, I think a real advantage in the city of Grand Haven is we can help direct that change in a very positive way, because we don't have to say yes to everything. We can pick and choose and wait for the right projects to come along and do the right thing. So I think we're fortunate that way. So, and I think this will also be a good project, although controversial. And we'll lose another iconic little hut with cartoon characters on only 2 sides of it, polka dots. Yeah. So, and with that, the city manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. On your desk is an envelope marked confidential. If you want to take a look at that, that's some information for you regarding a pressing topic, and give me a call, please, if you've got any questions. There is a breakfast this Thursday, the 21st. Congressman Heisinger will be at Spring Lake Country Club from 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., and we've not had anybody RSVP, so the Chamber wanted to know if anybody was going to attend that, so I said I would bring it up tonight.
Did they send out an invite?
I had not seen one.
I haven't seen one. It's hard to respond to something you don't have.
Well, yeah.
What day?
This Thursday, 7:30 a.m.
I'd be happy to go.
Busy congressman, probably, you know, his schedule is such that maybe it
Last minute?
could be. I'm not sure, but I apologize for not letting you know sooner, but
And
I just heard about it this afternoon and thought I would bring it up tonight.
Is it at Spring Lake Country Club?
Yes.
Okay.
7:30, so.
And that's AM, it's a breakfast, right?
Mayor, you're planning on going? You want me to RSVP?
I'm gonna give it my best shot. I have to look at if there's anything else that
Let me know and we'll get the RSVP, or you could let Linda know. Do you want to?
okay, all right,
There you
tell
go.
Linda, okay.
Yeah,
We have to let the chamber know, or let Linda know?
I'll let Linda know.
Okay, all right.
She'll get you signed up.
Okay.
Tomorrow, we're heading down for the Municipal League dinner. Leave Grand Haven at 5 p.m. And I believe I'm picking up Dennis, Mike, and Jerry right around 5 p.m.
All right.
Yes, and I'll be driving separate because I'm spending the night in Lansing.
Bob's driving
I'm
separate.
driving separate because I'm going in the morning because I have extra sessions to attend.
Bob's graduating on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right.
And then on Wednesday morning, we'll leave here about 7 a.m., same drill, for the Wednesday Capitol Conference itself. And on Monday, the 25th, we'll be going to to Eagle Welding Blacksmith Shop in Greenville to look at the Bents, to see how that's going. So last time we were accompanied by a journalist from the Fourth Estate, and we'll see if this time we are so blessed. But welcome to come, Alex, if you'd like. We're going to go out to look at the Bents again on Monday. Yeah. If you can't make it, you can either ride with us or I can take pictures for you. Yeah. And I'll write the story about the intrepid city council who went over and above.
We were out there with big hammers.
Building the catwalk. And Mike, on March 26th at Spring Lake Country Club, you're signed up for the 5:30 video taping for the infrastructure, and I'll get you more on that.
Okay.
March 26th, 5:30. If there's any conflict or anything, we can make arrangements.
Is that 5:30 a.m. or p.m. for Mike?
Yeah.
Mike requested AM, but unfortunately
I'm
it's
up.
PM.
I'm up.
Dennis isn't up yet, so it's PM.
So I just sit there and wait for him?
I'm not anymore.
I'm not up yet.
It's right by the fireplace.
Sounds cozy.
It's a very nice, nice setting.
You'll doze off.
A real fireplace. This is not gas. It's got real wood in it, yeah. Yeah. 8 minutes goes by really fast.
I bet it does.
That's all I had.
That's it? Okay. General business, call the audience. This is another second opportunity for anyone to make comments to council. Just let us know who you are and where you live.
My name is Rebecca Neal. I'm a resident here in Grand Haven at 1644 Franklin. In addition to that, I have been the owner of a wellness practice at that same location. I'm a privately owned integrative wellness practitioner and a licensed massage therapist. For the last 5 years, I've lived here, 4.5 of which I've been practicing professionally. I offer a variety of services under that roof where things like flotation therapy, massage therapy. I do consulting work in nutritional and lifestyle and mindfulness. I'm very much affiliated with the mental health task force here in the Tri-Cities. One of the things I'm interested in having a conversation and hopefully to get on the agenda for further conversation is my eventual interest to also own a medical marijuana dispensary. For the last 4 years, I've spent much of this time educating myself on the very attributes that this plant medicine does in fact give. And so I really want to further have that discussion so we can, talk about really how wonderful this plant is. In addition to this being professionally something of mine, I use this personally. I have epilepsy. I suffer from 12 plus seizures a day. This is my medicine. There is no other options or accessibility anywhere in Ottawa County as of right now, let alone Kent County. The closest place I can get that medicine is in Kalamazoo, for good product for that matter. As far as I'm concerned, I would love to set the standard in this community as what a medical marijuana provisioning center would entail. This is an establishment that I have literally visioned for the last 4 years. I really have a genuine interest in seeing something come to fruition here. I love this community. I have 3 kids that go to this community, and I have no interest in making this look terrible or bad or visually displeasing by any means. But I really hope that you guys take consideration of this being on further agenda, and I would like to make that a formal request if you would. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jamie Cooper, 1386 Taylor Avenue. I emailed
the city council last Thursday requesting time on tonight's agenda or an upcoming agenda. Pat emailed me suggesting I email you guys requesting that or to show up, so here I am. I moved here to Grand Haven 4 years ago from Colorado. I moved here the same year that Colorado legalized recreational marijuana. I also sit on the Musical Fountain Committee. I'm a mother of a special needs child that is in the cognitive impairment program at Griffin Elementary, and I am a business owner, and my business is specific to the cannabis industry. I started out with a marketing company, and that eventually transitioned into a chamber of commerce type of business for the industry, in that I was named as a top 50 most influential women in West Michigan because of my work and doing presentations to city councils throughout the state over the last 3 years, kind of educating them about the medical marijuana law and what it means for the communities. I understand the reasoning tonight for opting out to recreational. The state hasn't even put together the rules and regulations. They're not going to have that out until December, so I understand why you guys took that reactive approach. However, 56% is a very clear yes from our citizens and the voters, and 3,000 people in this community voted yes, and that's 3,000 people that we should be listening to. You're getting a lot of heat for this from the community. However, I think it's time to talk about medical marijuana. In 2017, more than 4,000 patients are here in Ottawa County. 500 people are caregivers, meaning 500 people can cultivate and up to 72 plants in their basement, garage, wherever they choose to do so. Each year we see about 25% increase on those numbers as far as patients. We have 300,000 patients in Michigan right now. We have Crockery, Muskegon, and Grand Rapids who have all opted in. And those licensed dispensaries can actually sell cannabis legally in our community. That is a provision that was in the Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act. In 4 months since November 1st, there have been $42 million in medical marijuana sales here in Michigan, just in 4 months since November. And we're a reciprocal state, meaning we will honor the medical marijuana cards of any state that has a medical marijuana program. That's something that needs to be thought about here in Grand Haven with our tourism opportunity. Chronic pain, 93% of those that have a card use it for chronic pain, and in fact, 1 in 5 people in this room have severe chronic pain. There are 27 qualifying conditions right now, and there are prominent leaders in this community that I have helped get their medical marijuana card or have told them where they can get their medication. And there are also physicians that are writing certifications. 88% of the caregiver product right now cannot pass testing. Without accessibility, our voters, our patients are buying either from the black market or they're buying from the caregivers, and that's 88% that can't even pass testing. So we need regulated, tested marijuana accessible. So I'm just asking, please schedule a work session and begin the process of, educating yourself about the benefits that our community can actually see from these types of businesses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. How are you guys?
We're good. How about you?
Hopefully you remember this face. I've been here a couple of times. I wasn't even expecting to speak tonight, but I'll just be very brief. Of course, it's about the donuts at the Grand Trunk Depot. I know the historic value of the building, so we want to really work with you guys. Whatever your suggestions are. When I've been in business for over 15 years, and every time I've been in business, I work with not only my neighboring neighbors, I try to make it so we're all kind of flowing together, and that way we could build, I am passionate about young people, kids. I have a frozen yogurt truck, which I do donuts on also. Kids are always coming up to the truck happy with their creations that they made. So I'm very passionate about that. I do graduation parties, other kind of events, art prize every year. So I'm really more family oriented, and that's why I love the depot location. I mean, when we were watching shows or their water feature, it's all about family and kids. So whatever we can do to go along with you guys in the process of developing that area, if you have suggestions, you can always stop by if we get the bid. You can always stop by like, hey, Horace, why don't you do this or why don't you try that? I'm always willing to do whatever it takes. So I'm just easy to work with, and we really want these donuts to be there.
Could we have your name and where you live in that?
Oh,
so
Horace
for records?
Curry, and I just moved. I was on Devonshire Lane in Grand Haven. Now I'm at 15821 Brucker Street, right in front of the airport.
There you go.
All right.
Probably right over us.
There you go, Linda.
Thank you.
You're selling donuts as they're going over you?
I could throw them, toss them in the air. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Horace. Anyone else? If not, we will adjourn.
Froyo and donuts.